Some goodbyes are just the end of a match. Others are the end of an era. This is the story of a man whose tears on his final day told a story of a lifetime of love for a single club. You won't want to miss a moment of this incredible journey, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. On the raw, emotional night of November 5th, 2022, the legendary Camp Nou, that cathedral of football, seemed to hold its collective breath. A sea of over 92,000 souls had their eyes fixed on one man, a tall, unmistakable figure walking slowly, deliberately out of the tunnel and onto that sacred grass for the very last time as a player. It was Gerard Piqué Bernabeu. And he wasn't even trying to hide his tears. They flowed freely, carving paths down the cheeks of a man who had bled Blaugrana for a decade and a half. He raised a hand, waving to all four corners of the stadium, and the sound that came back was a tidal wave of emotion. Piqué, Piqué, Piqué. It thundered a deafening, heartfelt ovation that shook the very foundations of the old ground. This wasn't just another game. This was a farewell. A glorious, gut-wrenching, beautiful farewell. An entire chapter in the grand book of FC Barcelona was closing right before their eyes. In that single slow-motion walk, you just know his life was flashing before him. He was that little boy again, hand in hand with his grandfather, staring up in awe at the vast stands of Camp Nou. He was the ambitious young man who ventured into the unknown of Manchester, only to return a conquering hero. He was the loyal, old guard of the Tiki-Taka Empire, a pillar of the greatest team the world had ever seen. He was an icon, the embodiment of the Catalan spirit. To truly understand the weight of those tears, to feel the story behind that goodbye, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning, to the day his destiny was written. Gerard Piqué was born on February 2nd, 1987, right in the heart of Barcelona, into a family where love for the club wasn't just a passion. It was woven into their very DNA. It was practically a religion. His father, Joan Piqué, was a successful lawyer and businessman. His mother, Montserrat Bernabeu, the director of a prestigious hospital specializing in spinal injuries. But the true architect of his footballing fate, the man who set the first stone, was his maternal grandfather, Amador Bernabeu. He was a colossal figure in the club's history, a former vice president of FC Barcelona and their delegate to UEFA. There's a legendary story, one that sounds like it's pulled from a football fairy tale. On the very day Gerard was born, before the family had even brought him home, his grandfather Amador marched straight to the club offices. And there he registered his newborn grandson as a socia member of FC Barcelona. His membership number was 1055152. Before he could even kick a ball, before he even knew what a football was, Gerard Piqué belonged to Barca. His destiny was sealed, etched onto that little plastic card. Growing up in that environment, football was the air he breathed. He didn't just watch the games. He lived them, he felt them. At the tender age of 10, he walked through the doors of the famed La Masia Youth Academy. He became part of the legendary class of 1987, a generation of kids who were destined to shake the football world to its core. Boys like a midfield maestro named Cesc Fabregas and a small, quiet, impossibly gifted kid from Argentina named Lionel Messi. At La Masia, Piqué wasn't the most dazzling technician like Leo or a tactical genius like Cesc. He was tall, a bit gangly, even a little clumsy back then. But he made up for it with a brain that saw the game 3 steps ahead of everyone else and the charisma of a natural-born leader. The coaches at La Masia didn't just teach football, they ingrained a philosophy. Control the ball, pass the ball, think. For Piqué, it was like coming home. He was a fish in water. He learned to read the patterns of the game, to command a defensive line, and most crucially, to play the ball out from the back with confidence and poise, a skill that would become his trademark. He was no angel, though. Piqué was famously the ringleader of mischief, a confident, chatty kid who was never ever afraid to speak his mind or pull a prank. It was this powerful personality, this unshakable self-belief, that made him the captain of nearly every youth team he played for. The path seemed clear, a straight line from La Masia to the Camp Nou first team. But in football, as in life, the path is never a straight line. In 2004, at just 17 years old, Piqué found himself at a brutal crossroads. The Barcelona first team was stacked with experienced, world-class defenders. The door for a teenager, no matter how promising, was barely cracked open. And just then an offer landed on the table. An offer from one of the biggest clubs in the world, Manchester United, managed by the legendary Sir Alex Ferguson. It was an agonizing decision. Leaving his family, leaving his city, leaving the footballing sanctuary of Camp Nou. He would have to abandon the very philosophy that had been ingrained in him since he was a boy for a completely alien footballing culture. English football back then was a different beast, all about power, blistering pace, and bruising physical battles. It was the absolute antithesis of La Masia's delicate art. But Piqué, brimming with the ambition and fearless confidence of youth, made the call. He wouldn't just sit and wait for a chance. He wanted to forge his own destiny. He wanted to be challenged. He wanted to grow. It was a massive gamble. What would you have done in his shoes? Stay and wait for a chance at your boyhood club, or take the risk and move abroad? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. Those years in Manchester were like a brutal, unforgiving university of defending. Piqué struggled. He struggled with the culture, the language, the relentless rain, and most of all, the style of play. He had to learn to be more aggressive in the tackle, to dominate in the air, to fight for every ball. He trained every single day alongside two defensive titans, two absolute monsters of the game, Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidić. And those weren't just training sessions, they were priceless masterclasses. From Rio, he learned composure, elegance, and the art of anticipation. From Vidić, he learned raw ferocity, the indomitable spirit of a warrior who would run through a brick wall for the badge. Sir Alex Ferguson saw the potential. He saw in Piqué the blueprint of a modern center-back. But he also knew the young Catalan needed time. He didn't play much, but every minute on the pitch was a learning experience, a chance to show his intelligence and his sublime ability to start attacks from the back. And in the 2007 to 2008 season, he was part of the Manchester United squad that achieved the incredible, the Premier League and Champions League double. He was on the bench for that rainy final in Moscow, but lifting those two famous trophies at just 21 years old ignited a fire in him. It gave him a taste of glory he was desperate to experience again, but this time in the Blaugrana colors of home. Sandwiched in between his English adventure was a crucial loan spell at Real Zaragoza in the 2006 to 2007 season. There he was a regular starter, proving to everyone, and more importantly to himself, that he could be one of the best young defenders in La Liga. He showed he wasn't just a product of the La Masia system. He could thrive anywhere. The mission in England was complete. It hadn't turned Piqué into a British defender. It had forged him. It had added steel to his silk. He left Barcelona as a boy with potential, and he was returning as a man, a champion, ready for the greatest conquest of his life. In the summer of 2008, a seismic revolution was shaking Camp Nou. A club legend, a son of La Masia himself, Pep Guardiola, was appointed as the new head coach. And one of his very first demands was simple and direct: bring Gerard Piqué back. Pep knew exactly who he was getting. He knew this young man wasn't just a talented defender. He carried the Barca DNA in his veins. Pep's entire philosophy was built on a simple idea: control the ball. He needed a center-back who wasn't just a defender, but the first attacker. A player fearless enough to demand the ball under pressure, intelligent enough to break the lines with a pass, and brave enough to start the beautiful music of tiki-taka. Piqué was the missing piece of the puzzle. He was perfect. His return wasn't a transfer, it was a homecoming. He came back to the place where he belonged for a fee of just $5 million, a sum that would go down as one of the greatest bargains in football history. He wasn't the lanky, slightly awkward boy they remembered. He was a European champion, a defender hardened in the fires of the Premier League. He was immediately thrown into the heart of the defense alongside the club's lion-hearted captain, Carles Puyol. And together, they formed what might just be the most perfect central defensive partnership in the history of the game. Puyol was Tarzan, all heart, all courage, the embodiment of a warrior's spirit that never ever gave up. Piqué was the brain, the calm, the intelligence, the elegant conductor who played with his head up. Puyol was the firefighter racing across to extinguish danger with a last-ditch tackle. Piqué was the strategist, preventing the fire from even starting with his positioning and anticipation. They were yin and yang, a wall of Catalan steel in front of Victor Valdés's goal. That 2008-2009 season, Piqué's first year back, is the stuff of legend. Pep Guardiola's Barcelona played a brand of football that mesmerized the world. A hypnotic dance of passing and movement that culminated in the historic sextuple La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League, the Spanish Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the FIFA Club World Cup. 6 trophies in a single year. Unprecedented. And Piqué was at the very heart of it all. Who could ever forget the image of him wheeling away in celebration after scoring the final goal in that historic, humiliating 6-2 demolition of Real Madrid at their own Santiago Bernabeu? Or the image of him standing tall against his old club Manchester United in the Champions League final in Rome, playing with a maturity beyond his years, as Barca secured a masterful clean sheet. He had returned, and he hadn't just returned, he had conquered everything. He had conquered everything. Piqué's journey is a testament to what makes this game so beautiful: the loyalty, the drama, the glory. We tell these kinds of legendary stories every week here on Legends of Football League. So if you love the beautiful game as much as we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out. Success at the club level flowed seamlessly onto the international stage. Piqué made his debut for the Spanish national team in 2009 and immediately cemented his place in the starting 11, recreating that telepathic partnership with his club captain Puyol at the heart of La Roja's defense. The 2010 World Cup in South Africa was the absolute zenith for Spain's golden generation. With a core built around the Barcelona midfield, Spain played a suffocating, dominant style of possession football. And the foundation of it all, the rock upon which that church was built, was the Piqué-Puyol partnership. They were the starting point of every single attack and the final barrier against every counter. Spain became world champions for the very first time in their history, and Gerard Piqué, at just 23 years old, stood on top of the world. 2 years later, at Euro 2012, with Puyol sadly absent due to injury, Piqué stepped up. He was a true leader now. He formed a new, formidable partnership with his fierce club rival Sergio Ramos of Real Madrid. They cast aside their heated club loyalties, their El Clasico battles, to form an unbreakable shield. They were immense, leading Spain to another dominant victory as they defended their European crown. In the space of 3 years, Piqué had won every single major trophy a footballer could ever dream of. He was without question one of the very best defenders on the planet. Now, if the story ended there, with the mountain of trophies, Piqué would already be a certified legend. But what makes him so unique, so special, is the man he is off the pitch. He was never just a footballer. The nickname Piqué Presidente, President Piqué, didn't just appear out of thin air. It came from his sharp intellect, his vision, and his incredible business acumen. While he was still playing at the absolute peak of his powers, he founded Cosmos Holding, an ambitious investment group focused on sports and media. Cosmos famously spearheaded a revolution in the world of tennis, completely revamping the historic Davis Cup. He also acquired FC Andorra, investing heavily, and guiding the small club through successive promotions with the grand ambition of one day reaching La Liga. Piqué didn't just want to play sports, he wanted to shape their future. His personal life, too, became global news when he began a relationship with the international pop superstar, Shakira. They became one of the most famous and powerful couples on the planet. Suddenly, Piqué wasn't just a footballer. He was a pop culture icon. But perhaps the thing that truly defined his public persona was his unapologetic, outspoken nature and his unwavering Catalan spirit. He never shied away from defending Catalonia's right to self-determination, a political stance that made him a constant target for criticism from many Spanish football fans. He loved to stir the pot frequently, firing off provocative statements and tweets aimed squarely at arch-rivals Real Madrid, sparking fiery public spats with players like Sergio Ramos and Álvaro Arbeloa. Many slammed him for it, calling him divisive. But for the culés, the Barcelona faithful, Piqué was their voice. He wasn't some media-trained robot churning out cliches. He was a man with opinions, with passions, with convictions, and he was never afraid to express them. He loved Barcelona, he loved Catalonia, and he fought for what he believed in both on and off the pitch. Piqué was more than just a footballer. He was a voice. If you know a fan who appreciates players with true character and conviction, share this story with them. And tell us which other football mavericks should we feature next. But every empire, no matter how glorious, must eventually face its decline. After the golden era of Pep Guardiola, Barcelona began a slow, painful descent. The Champions League, once their playground, became a stage for heartbreak. The soul-crushing comebacks suffered in Rome and at Anfield, and most painfully of all, the humiliating 8-2 annihilation at the hands of Bayern Munich. Each defeat was like a dagger to the heart of the club's pride. Through all those turbulent years, Piqué, along with the other members of the old guard, like Messi, Busquets, and Alba, stood firm. They were the last sentinels, desperately trying to hold on to the fading embers of their former glory. He became the leader in the dressing room, the one who always faced the cameras after a devastating loss, the one who took the brunt of the public's anger and frustration. When the club spiraled into a crippling financial crisis, Piqué was one of the very first to step forward, accepting a massive pay cut so the team could register new players. His words echoed the depth of his commitment. "I was born here, I grew up here, and I will die here. Barca has given me everything, so I must do everything for the club." The immense pressure on the pitch was compounded by turmoil in his personal life. His public separation from Shakira after more than a decade together thrust him under an even more intense and unforgiving media spotlight. Every move he made was scrutinized, every action dissected. By the 2022-2023 season, under the management of his old friend and teammate Xavi Hernandez, the writing was on the wall. Piqué was no longer the first-choice center-back. Age had finally stolen that half-yard of pace, but it hadn't touched his love for the shirt. He accepted his role as a substitute with grace, continuing to train like a professional, offering guidance and wisdom to the young defenders who were now taking his place. And then, suddenly came the announcement. It was a shock, but in hindsight, it made perfect, beautiful sense. In an emotional video posted on his social media, Piqué announced his retirement from football. "I have achieved all my dreams," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He explained it was time to step aside. He refused to become a burden, a high-earning substitute sitting on the bench. He ended with a simple, powerful declaration: "I have always said that after Barca, there would be no other team, and so it will be." His farewell wasn't an act of surrender. It was the ultimate act of love. He put the institution, the club he adored, above his own ego, above his own career. He stepped aside to allow a new generation to flourish, to give Barcelona the space it needed to rebuild and dream again. And so, we returned to that night at Camp Nou, under the floodlights, in November 2022. As Piqué stood in the center circle, microphone in hand, trying to find the words to say goodbye, he finally let the dam break. "Loving Barca so much," he choked out, "is why I thought it was the right time to go. But this is not a goodbye. I am sure that in the future I will be back." And as he spoke those words, the entire stadium, all 92,000 of them, erupted in a single unified chant: "Presidente, Presidente." The legacy Gerard Piqué Bernabeu leaves behind can't be counted in his 35 major trophies. He was so much more than a center back. He was a revolutionary who redefined what a defender could be. He was a leader, a captain, a symbol of unwavering loyalty and unconditional love for his club. He was a visionary businessman, and above all, he was a son of Catalonia, a proud, defiant voice that could never be silenced. The story of Gerard Piqué is a perfect poetic circle. The little boy whose grandfather made him a club member on the day he was born grew up to become a legend, fought and bled for that famous shirt, and left in a flood of tears with the adoration of tens of thousands ringing in his ears. And perhaps that final promise, "I will be back," wasn't just an emotional farewell. The presidency of FC Barcelona seems to be his destiny waiting for him somewhere down the road. Gerard Piqué's journey with a ball at his feet may be over, but his story with Barcelona is far, far from finished. And that is a story whose next chapter everyone who loves the Blaugrana is eagerly waiting to read. And that's where this incredible football story concludes for now. What a journey, right? I'm so eager to hear your thoughts. What moment in Piqué's career stood out to you the most? Did his incredible loyalty resonate with you? Please share all your opinions, your favorite memories, and any questions you have in the comments below. I truly love reading them and building this amazing football community with all of you. Thanks for watching.